Welcome to this, the 54th episode of Chakmah Choter. When we began the Chakmah Choter series, I could not have imagined that it would have gone to 54 episodes.
At 55, do we get a prize?
I think so. the double nickels. But I'm not sure there's a whole lot of prizes that get paid out in the interim period here. The big prize is at the end.
Yep.
But what ended up happening is that initially I wanted to share what we had learned when Dode wrote the 14th Mashal. And the 14th Mashal is devoted to the Choter, and it is presented as the Chakmah Choter. So I thought, why not? Let's share the entirety of the 14th Mizmor. And then, of course, if you're going to do a series on the Chakmah Choter, you have to do Yeshaya 11, which is directly attributable to it. But you can't stop there because the Choter is the Nakri of Second Chronicles 6. And so we had to share that. And there we have to go through much of the prophet Yeshaya because he talks about him all the time. Yeah, it's probably the most...
That's my guy.
Yeah, the most highly identified individual throughout the book of Yeshaya is this Nakri and Choter, the Kol, the Pei, he is the Adama Parah, and he is the man from Edom. So he is really throughout the book of Yeshaya. So we were just
and Yahweh calls him my son.
Yeah, it is true. And then when we were dealing with so much of what we were learning, we realized that everyone who speaks for God goes through a series of challenges where those around them rebel. Not all, but some. And
many.
It's a way of expressing what God has endured with his people for 3,400 years. Therefore, we all have to experience it so we can empathize with the Almighty. Well, that brought us to Numbers 11 and 12, which were very interesting in this regard and quite prophetic also in this regard. And as we were going through Numbers 11, we were introduced to two figures that, well, I knew we were going to find one of them in the Torah because I knew that the 18th chapter, that the individual that Moshe said is like me and from you was Dode, David. So I expected to find Dode in it, not by name. And there we go. When Moshe had his meltdown and couldn't function really anymore, he told God, you might as well just kill me because I can't do this job. No one can do this job. These people are impossible. And Yahweh said, well, I beat you to it. I resigned before you did. So probably not what he said, but you get the point. He said, I've already resigned. So
what's next?
You're going to have to be quicker if you're going to beat God to the punch here. God said, all right. I've got a plan for you. I'm going to show you my plan. I got some guys. And the two guys are Eldod and my Dode. And Eldod is the Almighty's beloved, who is the most beloved of Yahweh, Yahweh's chosen one, Dode to David. And my Dode, when you add the two letters of the May and the Yod, it tells you that he is from the sea, therefore he is a Gentile, that he's going to be associated with a torrent of water cleansing and providing new life, and that he is Dode's right hand and God's hand at this time. So there is my Dode and Eldod. The greater and lesser luminaries are presented right in the middle of it, and they are Naba. They are filled with the Spirit, and they are Naba. And we had a little discussion
there's that
yesterday.
Word again, Naba.
Yeah, we had a discussion yesterday about, well, what's the difference between Naba and Nabi? Nabi being the Hebrew word for a prophet, and prophet is a noun. It is both a title and a noun. And it designates someone who is a prophet. It could be a true prophet or a false prophet, but a prophet. And Naba is the verbal root. That means that these guys were speaking as prophets. They were engaged in prophecy. So it wasn't just a title saying, okay, this person's another one of the prophets. they were engaged in prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we
The prophecy and those who prophecy about.
Yeah. So then we were recognizing that, all right, we're dealing with a different kind of cast of characters throughout God's story. There are pure prophets whose role is only to share what God has to say. Malachi would be one of them. For the most part, Zechariah is one of them. Ilya did have some interactions with Hezekiah. Yirmiah had some interactions with the king pursuant to doing a deal with Egypt and Babylon and telling him, giving him advice as to what he shouldn't be doing. But for the most part, the people that we consider to be prophets were pure prophets. And then there are the player prophets, of which the most important two would be Moshe and Dod. So they play major roles in God's story, but they are also prophets. So, and then in that light, Nabal would speak of a very active prophet. That would be your player prophet type. And these two guys were Nabal. Now, that was a cathartic moment for me, because up to that point, I had been, I finally began to settle in to the most recent, I got another title for you there, young man, and that was Adamah Parah. And when you realize the Adamah Parah is sacrificed in the end, you say, well, okay, well, that's a lot. That's a big request, as they say. But I was still more than happy to deal with that. We have the keeper of the cables is telling us that we didn't have the ear mic on, and therefore when I move around from this one, my voice fades out. So we're all set now.
We're all set.
We're all good. So we got the keeper of the cables with the left hand of God and the in the scene there.
Now I can hear you in my ear. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's better. All right, good. Well, hopefully we had audio.
We did.
Okay,
We did.
Yes.
prior to that point. So when I was dealing with the fact that now we have to really go back and look at everything that we had previously concluded, now that we know that Teruah has two phases, an ingathering, and then after the ingathering on the Shabbat, there is the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, this red heifer, and that it is mentioned throughout the prophets, and that guy is the Zeroah, he is the Bashar, he is the Choter. In fact, even when
He is Yada.
when Yeshaya introduces the Choter, he tells us straight away that you can't even get through the second sentence, and he says, oh, by the way, the Choter is Parah. So that took a lot to digest. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When God says, you're going to be one of the two sacrifices on the Moed, you're initially saying, you want me to do what? And then you say, oh, okay, I think I can do that. And then you become this. Actually, you grow into the role where you say, I'm thrilled and honored that you would think that I'm capable of doing what you request. So count me in, coach. I'll do it. Happy to do it.
Yeah, so remember when I came to you and looked you dead in the eyes and says, does that mean that you're the red heifer?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's what it means. So I was dealing with that, and we had kind of processed it, and now we are dealing with Numbers 11. And Numbers 11 is a tough chapter to process, because God gives up on Israel, saying, you're so obnoxious, I'm going to torch everything around the camp because I'm that angry with you. So God gives up on them and calls them obnoxious. And then Moshe flat out quits. He just says, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's an impossible. I'm angry with you. I'm angry with me. I'm angry with them. I'm not doing it anymore. Consider me checked out. And quite frankly, I'm upset with you that you would even ask me to do this, because you should be smart enough to know that this job was impossible.
I feel the same way he does sometimes.
Well, of course, we all do.
If you're sitting in this position,
So it was really important
you feel that.
to read that, because there are moments where we all feel that. Israel is still belligerent. They're still antagonistic towards God. And still
highly
hard-headed. I mean, you look at Israel right now, almost everything Israel is doing is dead wrong. Israel has turned the entire world on them by acting like they're somehow authorized to bomb anybody they want. And you just can't do that. You cannot be the bomber boys of the world when you're a country that already has a very widespread group that doesn't like you at all. You turn the whole world against you. And so it's hard to get Israel's attention and to say that was suicidal what you did. Well, it's the same thing is true. They erased Yahweh's name. They won't even say it. You can't even approach God until you embrace
suicidal.
His name. They have trashed the reputation of his Messiah and Son,
made up 3
our
religions,
Savior, Dode.
The same ones that chase them today.
Yeah, so it's a really tragic situation that has occurred with.
I've met the enemy. He is us.
With Israel, and God made it really clear that they are that tough, and that God gave up on them. Moshe gave up on them. Dode gave up on them, and then God said, "Well, this final opportunity to reintroduce my name to my people and my son to my people, I'm going to outsource, and I'm going to give it to this goy." And you realize, oh, come on. Moshe failed, for crying out loud. King Dode failed, for crying out loud. And you failed. All 3 of you failed. And now you want to give it to me? And you're saying, nah. And then you look at what happened with Moshe and you say, well, I've got to be able to do better than that.
Oh, yeah. And even Moshe and his wife, right?
Yeah, I got to be able to do better than that. So this got us into Numbers 11. And as we were processing it, we came to Eldod and Mydod, and their prophets.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, wait a minute, my previous understanding of Nabi is that if you're a prophet of Nabi, you have to be inerrant. And I said, that's not possible. And then I said, wait a minute.
Well,
that cannot be the correct interpretation
because
Dode was a prophet and he was not inerrant.
Nope.
And Moshe was a prophet and he was not inerrant.
Nope.
So therefore, if you're a player prophet, when you're making your own conclusion, you don't have to be
inerrant.
It's important that you make the best determination you can, be as accurate as you can. And if you learn more and need to refine what you had previously concluded, that you go back and correct the record. Those are the kinds of things that are important, but perfection is not, obviously. Otherwise, the 2 most important player prophets, the only 2 player prophets prior to this time, Moshe and Dode, could not have been player prophets. And Yahweh says of Moshe, who said some horrible things about God. I mean, he was just absolutely wrong, that he was the greatest of the prophets. So I knew that I had interpreted the test that is provided in Dabarim 18 incorrectly. But it's one thing to say I processed the information incorrectly and figuring out why and to correct the record. So we're going back to Dabarim 18. It's a long introduction, but I like long introductions. So there you go. As we began Dabarim 18, the first thing we learned is that if you're serving Yahweh, you had better not make a living of it. That if you're like the rabbis and you're charging people and making a money in that role, well, they won't claim they're serving Yahweh, they're serving themselves, and that's pretty obvious. I wouldn't say Yahweh's
name.
But
making merchandise of
it. Yes, but if you're even claiming to be in the mode of serving God, you cannot be paid. And that, of course, obliterates all popes, priests, cardinals, bishops, pastors, particularly like the Jimmy Swaggarts, who the guy was bad, but God still loves me. He just passed away. Jimmy Swaggart's a real creep. But if you're making money at this, then you're not speaking for Yahweh. That's what it says. 18:1 and 18:2 says the Loi, they're responsible for doing what I want them to do, pursuant to the Moed and explaining to the people what the purpose is, and they are not to engender any compensation from the people. Their inheritance is with me. I'm paying them. And that's similar. I'm not a Loe, but it's the mindset that I went into this mission with. And that is that there's nothing wrong with me investing in the tools to do this, but there is something wrong with me charging people for it, which is why if you look at the website, every book is free in its entirety.
And if you want the printed version, we do not take a profit.
That is correct. They're royalty free. So this is a bold pronouncement to clerics worldwide, especially the money-grubbing rabbis, that you are a complete hypocrite when you accept any remuneration for your services. If a person wants to serve God and his people, there are a number of baseline requirements, many of which were prescribed in this opening statement and Devarim 1 and 2, which is first and foremost, you can't take any money. The other is that you have to be communicating on behalf of Yahweh and serving his interest.
Well, that discludes every cleric of every denomination, though, doesn't it?
Well, it would doubly so, because there is no cleric of any denomination, rabbi, imam, or pastor or priest that actually serves Yahweh.
That's right.
So they're not serving God. These serving on behalf of Yahweh must work freely without profiting economically. We may not accept donations, a salary, or monetary gifts. The servant's contributions must be ka asher dabar Yahweh, in Yahweh's name and consistent with God's testimony, especially regarding the proper way to benefit from the relationship. In addition, we should recognize and advance the specific responsibilities that were initially assigned to the Lowy Cohen, pertaining to Yahweh's home and his mikveh. Our principal resource, therefore, must be the
Torah,
where his instructions
and
are placed.
Only the Torah.
Well, no, I think we can also access the prophets as well. Now, there's Torah inside of the prophets, but the Torah and the prophets. And our intended audience should be Israel, to whom Moshe spoke and led. That doesn't mean we only speak to Israel, because God didn't. He spoke to Goyim, and he specifically tells his Nakri, your audience needs to be Goyim and simultaneously Yisrael. So considering how frustrated Yahweh has been with Yisrael these past 3,000, almost 500 years, and for having forgotten him and for having broken the covenant agreement, the last thing anyone should want is to be further disinherited or estranged. Moreover, prior to Yahweh's return and the restoration of Yisrael, the nation is way too polluted with Haredim on one side and the progressives on the other to be inviting to God. Take Jerusalem, for example. The most recent survey of its inhabitants revealed that they are equally divided into three groups, and all three groups are estranged from God. You got the comatose, which are the parasites. Those are the ultra-Orthodox Haredim Jews.
Death cult.
Right. You have anti-Semitic Muslims.
Death cult.
And then you have government secular humanists. They are the progressive employees and overtly political of the government. And the landscape is littered with religious and government buildings, highly offensive to God. That's one of the things
it's grotesque.
Where God is sending Yada, myself, and Elia to Jerusalem to communicate from the Temple Mount in 2030. We're going to arrive on the 18th of April of 2030, which is Passover. And as we do, God's going to cleanse the skyline, particularly the Temple Mount, of religious buildings, so that I don't break out in hives. Because otherwise, I might do so, and that would be unattractive there on the
It would
the
just
mount.
give me the Hebrew jeebies.
It would give me the Hebrew jeebies,
Yeah.
yes. So don't want that to happen. And so there'll be a lot of these buildings, particularly all of those that are in eyesight of where we're going to be communicating will be destroyed. The fact of the matter is that God is exceedingly anti-religious.
No more minarets and no more steeples for the people.
No, there'll be no
Gone,
Islamic
gone.
calls to prayer and no church bells ringing. They will all be destroyed. So the proper inheritance is to be nourished by, this is for those speaking on behalf of God, if you're called to do so, by the transformative light of our God, to experience the promised conversion from physical and material beings to energy and light. What Yahweh is offering is elevating, it's empowering, it's enlightening, and enduring it. The superior inheritance is to be part of the covenant and to be a member of Yahweh's family, to live with our God. And this occurs when we listen to what he has to say about this relationship. Now, the Lowy Levites serve, and that name means to unite, to bring people together with God.
Like the uniters.
Yep. Serve God's people by leading them home. They work as instructional intermediaries during the Mikra invitations. And by doing so, they have inherited Yah's blessings. As retirement packages go, this one is as good as it gets. And so we should not feel sorry for them or anyone else who serves in this capacity. You know, I have served freely, working 10 to 14 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week for 24 years, and have only spent money for the privilege of doing so, and have never made a dime doing any of this, and still won't allow anybody to make a contribution to offset those costs.
And I have served breakfast, lunch, and supper sometimes to your desk.
Yes, most often for the longest time. When we were talking about working a 12 and 14 hour day, I didn't even get up from the desk. Leah would
now Rich is here, so we have to be a little civilized.
Bring the meal and set it right on the desk. So there you are with the mouse and the keyboard, and mouse and keyboard. Yeah, we're dedicated to this job. Yeah, well over 100,000 hours invested into it,
and our entire home.
Well, now we have turned. We had special places in our home that were devoted to translating and writing. And now we have entire areas of our home, which, are just surrounded by this ocean of lights and cameras and techno wizardry. And so our
equipment.
Yes, this desk that I'm sitting at now, I had built this desk to be my writing desk.
You can't even see how beautiful it is.
Yeah,
it's
now you're
covered in cables.
Now, the little bit of the desk you can see is this little strip right here
and a cage
that's caught by the camera and my bookshelves behind me. But now all we have here is the chance to sit here, look into this camera, and speak to you. And okay, that's certainly fine. The ultimate rewards for doing this job are wonderful, and we don't do it for the rewards anyway.
But it is our life.
It is our life, and
it's Yahweh's message, and
correct.
We are highly invested. We have a lot of skin in the game.
Yahweh really does. I mean, throughout this whole process, Yahweh chooses one person at a time to communicate through, and He is most appreciative when that person is exceedingly dedicated and steadfast.
Productive.
Yeah, and steadfast. Yeah, He does prefer productive. In fact, that is the name of this individual. He is Parah, which means productive. So, by inheriting Yahweh's blessings, the retirement package is really stellar, and so there's no reason to feel sorry for these individuals, the Lowy, or for anyone that works for God, because the perk package is out of this world. Now, should you be of the opinion that this pronouncement pertains exclusively to the Levites, and thus does not apply to a Gentile church, a mosque, or a state house, you'd be correct. You know why? Because God has nothing to do with the church, the mosque, the synagogue, or the state house. He doesn't care anything about any of those things. And so you're right. They don't pertain to you because you don't pertain to God. So this only pertains to you if you pertain to God. Otherwise, You are nothing but a hypocrite and lying about what you're doing. Now, there are no instructions for a Gentile church. There's no mention of a Gentile church. This thing that has evolved, and well, the Church of God. No, God does not have a church. Absolutely,
it's a pagan
unequivocally.
word anyway.
No, God doesn't have a Jesus. He doesn't have a Christ. He doesn't have a church. He doesn't have a Bible. He doesn't have any of that rubbish. He doesn't have a Trinity. None of it. He doesn't have Christmas. He doesn't have Easter.
Ishtar.
He doesn't have saints. He doesn't have prayer. He doesn't have worship.
He doesn't have rabbis.
No, he doesn't have a cross. Doesn't have anything. None of it.
No rabbis.
No.
Sorry.
Rabbis with their Greek sun god skull cap.
Yeah, look at
and they do their thing in a synagogue, which is a Greek word. You know, these are the very people that were the derivatives of replacing the Lowy Cohen. The Lowy Cohen were replaced by the Maccabee period. And the claim was that the Lowy priests were too influenced by the Greeks, who were in control of Judea. And then the Greeks were...
The whole Middle East was Hellenized.
Right. So it's hugely disgusting, but they loved the Greek religiosity and philosophy and all that sort of thing. So they embraced it, but they also embraced it because, well, if your territory is being subjugated by Greece and you want to be empowered and be enriched by the Greeks, you're going to go along with them. So I'm sure that there was a lot of going along by the Lowy, and the Maccabee says, no, we can't do that. We're going to lead a revolt against the Greek influence. Well, the only problem is the derivative of that became the rabbis, and they now meet in synagogues and wear Greek skull caps, which is why the Pope wears the same little cap that they wear, and so do priests and bishops and cardinals and the like. They all have the same headwear. So they became exemplars of the very thing that they said that they would.
Oh, the women
avoid.
have their own headwear too.
Yeah,
they get shaved and wear a wig.
Right. So it's all part of the Greek religion that they are mocking. So this known, it is important to recognize that those who are Lowy Levites are who they are, why they are, and why they were excluded from any other human inheritance, but offered an inheritance for God. And in this particular case, they bear the name of Lowy, which was given by his mother, the third of 6 sons born to Jacob and Leah. That's right. Yep, the Lowy are from Leah. There's another guy that was born to Leah too, that he makes her the mother of the Jews, isn't there? Mm-hmm. Who was Leah's most important son? Jacob. No, that was her husband. Yeah, girl. Oh, bad girl.
Sorry, Wookie was distracting me.
Okay, Wookie. Okay.
I'm drawing a blank.
Who is Leah's most important son?
Yahud. Jacob.
No, Jacob was Leah's husband. Jacob was Leah's husband.
Yes, Jacob. I don't know.
Yahud.
Right.
Yes, Yahud. Yes. It was Yahud. That was the beloved of Yah. Is Leah's most important son.
Her children are really interesting because if you put them in the birth order and you translate their names appropriately, there is a message there.
Yes, there is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But Yahud and Yahudim, it is actually another introduction of Dod's name into the Torah story, because Yahud means Yah was beloved, because it is a compound of Yahweh's name and Dod's name. That's why it's Yahud. It's Yadod.
The most interesting part of the story of Leah was that she was absolutely hated by the family.
Yes.
And she kept looking to her husband to love her.
Mm-hmm.
And I equated that with looking at the world to love me. And the minute she stopped doing that, and that's when she started naming her children differently, she turned to Yahweh.
Yeah. And she became lovable.
For validation.
And she became lovable.
Yeah.
When she stopped trying to be loved because
man.
Jacob was not loving her, Jacob preferred her sister. Then she became lovable. So it is, and she turned to Yahweh, while her sister turned to idols.
Yeah.
So the whole story is, of course, really quite interesting as to why Leah is the mother of the Jews, but she is. So Loie bears the name that Leah gave to her, and she wanted her husband Jacob to be more devoted and attracted to her, to be joined to her. So she named her son Loie, to be united and joined together. And that is the intent, of course, of the Loie. They are to unite and join Yisrael to Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but like Leah, they have joined themselves to men. That's your problem.
Yes, and Leah at that time was trying to engender the love of a man,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the love of God. And when she left that mentality, then it was an entirely different situation for her. And her son then became the great-great-grandfather of another very important person. You are actually the great-great-grandmother of
Dode.
Moshe.
Or Moshe and
Moshe. No, you can't be of Dode because,
No.
well, yeah, I guess you could be of
Yes.
Dode, but that would have to be another
long down the line.
Dode would be another 400 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would be the great grandmother of going down all the way
To Moshe.
And then even further to Dode, but not through the same line.
Nope.
But also Aaron and Miriam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
Loie,
good, the bad, the warts and everything.
yeah, I know. You get the good with the bad. The Loie were.
Makes the story interesting.
It does. The people in God's story are real. That is the one thing about
Yes.
God. If you
And only the religious turns them into automatons that are inerrant.
Oh yeah, they make, in fact,
weird stuff.
the
like
religious
that.
actually make the worst
insane.
two among the best, and yet they were awful. Aaron and Miriam really don't have any redeeming qualities.
No.
And Moshe was far from perfect.
But at least he was genuine and lovable.
He was pretty genuine most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Moshe had a
very
great,
genuine
had
person.
tremendous.
I have respect for Moshe. He is authentic as they come.
Listen, even when he gave up and he says, "I can't do this job anymore," and then God says, "Hey, I got a couple of guys that are going to fill in at the end. All you got to do is get them to the promised land. I'll take it from there." And Moshe did see the job through, and he was dedicated to it. He worked long hours. He was committed to the job, and he was 80 years old when he started, 120 when it was over. 40 years is a long term to be herding malcontents.
In their presence and deal. Oh my!
Yeah, it's a long time in their presence. So we've got a tremendous respect for Moshe. So
no,
I've used in most cases the past tense to describe the Loie Cohen because, well, they've been replaced not by God but by the religious, especially by rabbis. And rather than a priest serving to affirm the Torah and aid in the celebration of the Moed Mikre, Jews are appointing rabbis to replace God's words, his name, his meetings, and his son. They're the replacement players. So this is Yahweh's plan, one completely rejected by Judaism. It reads, "And this shall be the plan."
I like that.
For the priests, for the people. Out of the sacrificial animal prepared for the offering and consumption, whether a cow or a sheep.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Say, they shall give to the priest their shoulder of the sacrificial lamb, the zeroah, the jaw, the lachchi, and the belly, the first and the best of your grain, your dagon, and your new wine, the tyrosh, and of your oil, yitzar, as well as your choicest fleece, the reshith yeas, from your flock of sheep, and you shall give this to them. In other words, you're going to give them something to drink, something to wear,
Something to eat.
something to eat, and something to think about. For indeed, Yahweh your God has chosen among them out of the branches of the extended family of your people to be present, stationed, and standing to serve and render assistance in the name of Yahweh and he and his sons every day throughout time. Dabadim words, Deuteronomy 18:5. Of course, no
The
wonder.
interesting part was the extended part of your family.
Mhm.
Who would that include?
Well, the extended part of your family is all 12 tribes. So no wonder the rabbis are opposed to these things. The priests, well, they didn't get paid, and they served in Yahweh's name as opposed to Hashem, and they had to work on weekends. God does his best work on the Shabbat. But alas, the Lohi continued to do as Yahweh, if they had done as Yahweh requested, they would have been well-fed, handsomely attired, and suitably hydrated. Their job would have been...
I'm sure the wine would have been spectacular.
I'm sure. And it was a Beaujolais, a new wine, light on alcohol, rich in flavor. Their job would have been exceedingly rewarding. Fun to go to work. It's kind of like we said yesterday, Dode began each day. What are we going to do today, God? That's going to be fun. We have a good time today. To be Bashar, chosen by Yahweh to work with him, is the ultimate honor, and it's a privilege. And don't ever lose sight of that.
Yeah.
You'll notice that while the priests weren't given money, everything Yahweh asked for on behalf of the Lohi was symbolic. If we were to apply this to a contemporary situation, it would be appropriate to feed and clothe those promoting the Torah while also paying for their utilities, the olive oil. Yahweh's ministers were not given a salary or a housing allowance, however. Their only reward was the covenant and its benefits. So, we have found the first of many reasons rabbis, pastors, and priests seldom preach from Devarim 18.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Now, Yahweh's list of just rights is especially revealing. The lamb is symbolic of Passover and of eternal life. The Zeroah represents Moshe, Dode, and to a significant extent, also Yada. The jaw and the belly speak of nourishing words. Reshith is the first word of the Torah. Wine is symbolic of the blood that is sprinkled on the doorway and the mercy seat during reconciliations. And olive oil represents the set-apart spirit as she enlightens and nurtures us. The fleece speaks in part of Yahweh's flock and of being enveloped and adorned by the Ruach. So this was more than a list of ingredients. And oh, by that way, that other guy, that cow, that cow is the bull that is asked to fulfill Teruah.
Yes, but going back to the part where I said extended family, he's also the man of Edom, which would be extended family.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
He's still only a goy. He is.
Yes.
He's as a man from Edom. Yes, he is. He is equated to the estranged brother of Jacob, and therefore he speaks of bringing the family back together. But the Nakri is an observant foreigner, and the man from Edom is a man that will come out of the bloody red empire of Rome. Esau was described two ways. He was hairy and he was red.
Yeah.
Do you know the Latin word for hairy that became so famous?
Caesar.
Caesar. Caesar means hairy.
Yeah. What's on
And-
the outside of your passport, sir?
Yeah, well,
What's there? What is the
yeah,
image?
that was the eagle.
Okay.
But the eagle of Rome. But also Rome was the empire most known for its red. I mean, all of its legions were decked in red, and the city was decked in red, and the empire was bloody red. So it is symbolic. Esau became symbolic of the bloody red empire of the Caesars, the second to last of the beasts.
I watched a CGI recreation of Rome at around the time the Jews would have been carried off into slavery. And I have to tell you, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
To put yourself in the shoes and to see what you would have seen. It must have been as terrifying as what they saw.
Right. And you know what percentage of the population of the city of Rome were slaves?
A great many.
90.
Yeah.
Same thing was true with Athens. It was an empire that abused people mercilessly. So if a Loe, this now is God's continuation, because he had many strokes left in that brush that he was painting this particular tribe. And if a Loe shall come from one of your communities, anywhere within Israel, where to show the way to the proper path to walk, to get the greatest joy out of life. And he resides, he will do so as a guest in that place. And he may come there and enter in wherever his soul desires towards the dwelling place and home, which for the benefit of the relationship Yahweh will choose, which is to say that since they can't own property, and since they don't have so much, therefore, their own home, because they don't own property, they have the rights to live among the people. If a Loe comes and he wants to lay his head down in your home,
you open your door and you give him a bed.
That is correct. And he will render assistance and be attentive and serve in the name of Yahweh, just like all of his fellow Loe, who will be present and standing there before Yahweh. This is Devarim 18:7. No, there is always more than freedom of movement when within Yisrael as it pertains to the Loe. Through the Mikre and by walking along the proper path to receive the benefits of the covenant relationship, we are transformed from physical and material beings who are limited in space and time. Our souls become more akin to energy and light, where we're able to travel great distances. I mean, across the universe, 2 billion light years in all directions. At the
No rocket ship needed.
blink of an eye. All of this is what is being offered to us. So humans, as is the case with all animals, have a nefesh soul, and God is ruach spirit. If we want to live with him, we need what he has. Fortunately, he is willing to give us access to this part spirit gifts, and they're free. That is something that is really that's. So you have to be a patient if you want to be a family, because you're not to get access to the ruach until you have just you want it, or even prior to one of the harvests, because the ruach is ascribed to very few individuals, exceedingly few. So you don't get.
So all those claiming they got that Holy Spirit.
Yeah, they
They're
had the
full of it.
Full of it.
Full of it.
Have the Holy Spirit come upon you? No, that is just absolute nonsense. It has never happened like that. It is
Muhammad
not going
was full
to
of
happen.
it. Paul was full of it, and everyone after. They're all.
Well, I'm not sure that Muhammad was even clued into it, but certainly Paul was.
Well, he said a spirit came on him.
Yeah, Paul.
But he called it the devil.
Not Muhammad. Muhammad was too way. That was spiritual things were not Muhammad's deal.
No. Warlord was
six-year-old children and other.
Becoming a warlord was
Trey,
his shtick,
yeah, he was a warlord. He was not into the spiritual. So humans, as in the cases I have shared with animals, we have a soul, but we do have to ultimately become spiritual beings as we transition this three-dimensional realm that we're in now and move into the fourth, fifth, and sixth, and seventh dimensions. So Yahweh is willing at that time to enhance us, to empower us, to enrich us with these things when the time comes. Now, the Makom, which is the dwelling place and home associated with Yahweh's choosing, is Mount Moriah. The Sham, that is the place in which the Bereth covenant was affirmed with Abraham and Yishak. It's the place where Yahweh's home was built, the home for Yahweh's name, and it's where he provided the Passover lamb for the sacrifice. This Makom, standing place, is where God and man are united, where souls come together forever in God's presence. Yahweh reminds us that the only appropriate compensation for services rendered in association with his work is paid by him and does not come from men. We can feed, clothe, and brighten the lives of ministers, even welcome them into our homes, but
we don't buy them private airplanes.
That is correct.
Or Mercedes-Benz.
No, that is also correct.
Things like that.
Yeah. Now, this is a litmus test. Should anyone claim that they are serving on behalf of God and receive donations or monetary compensation, which would be 100% of rabbis and priests and pastors and imams, and they even sell their books for a profit, or they have advertising on their programming, as the case with 99% of clerics worldwide. They're not to be trusted. However, with religious clerics, it is not just the money, it's the lies, the betrayal of the people. Yahweh holds every rabbi, priest, imam, and pastor in contempt.
So do I. He
will hold them accountable by sentencing many of them for a long stay in Sheol. Goes on, this is Devarim 18:8. They shall have an equal share and portion for them to consume besides the selling price of the merchandise of their fathers. Now, this seems to suggest that even though the Lowy corn share of wool, wine, olive oil, and such was designed to be consistently fair, if a bumper crop yielded more than they could consume, well, their fathers were able to sell the surplus. The statement also suggests that Yahweh is supportive of the idea of providing an inheritance for our children, passing along what we have earned to make their lives a little better. It is yet another way for us to model his intent through the covenant. So as we examine the next several statements, we are confronted with the realization that the Toabah, the abominable things conducted by the Goyim that are being disparaged, which God wants his people to avoid, focus on religious beliefs and political platitudes. These are disingenuous human institutions and intrusive governments oppressing. Therefore, the things men and women love, the things that bring people together and shape their lives, are the very things Yahweh abhors.
Like the Knesset in Israel, institutions like that.
Mm-hmm. The second insight is more subtle. Well, it's heartbreaking, though, in a way. Since Yisrael failed Yahweh by incorporating these things into their culture and became every bit as religious and political, maybe more so than the Gentiles, God had to find a goy who rejected the ways of the Gentiles, their religion and politics, to reconnect his wayward children to the original intent, like Eden.
And the truth.
No religion, no politics in Eden. Everybody was on a first name basis. It was Adam and Yahweh and Chawah.
And you know, I laugh
because you said that we probably do religion better than the goy.
Yeah.
And
True.
there is no doubt in my mind we do.
Yeah.
None at all. And we keep doing the same thing over and over, running down the same old street like deja vu, all over and over and over again, all throughout history.
Yeah.
When will we cut the shit and drop religion and politics?
Religion and politics. I think it's only when Israel is
at the very end, when they have nowhere else to go.
Pressed,
how sad is that?
To such an extent that there's no other option during the time of trouble. When it is certain and imminent death versus God, they will choose Yahweh. That's kind of sad that it all comes to that. God deserves better. So third in this list of things we're analyzing, while there are many aspects of the Egyptian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Greek, and Roman religions that have been melded into Judaism and Christianity, there is an overt amalgamation of these religions that we are witnessing. Even Bible is based upon Babylon, being confused by the Lord. Some of the many abominations of the Gentiles that are included in Christianity include their Trinity, crosses, worshiping the Lord, Christmas, Easter, Sunday observances. They
got it all.
The mother of God,
Queen of Heaven,
Son of God, along with the myth of a dying and resurrected deity becoming more popular, and this deity becoming more popular than the father of the gods. The integration of religion and government is an idea originally incubated within these Gentile civilizations, as is going to war and killing in the name of their God. Mm-hmm. The papal system of cardinals, bishops, priests, and nuns originated in Gentile cultures, as did the feudal system imposed by the Roman Catholic Church. At its core, Christianity is an amalgamation of misguided Gentile ways. But so is Judaism.
Yeah.
And of course, so is Islam. Indeed, when you come upon the land which, for the benefit of the relationship, Yahweh your God is giving to you, you should not accept, learn, teach, or imitate, such that you act upon or engage in any semblance of the disgusting religious rites and political practices of the Gentiles. Yep, it's the Toabah of the Gentiles God asked them to avoid. The Toabah. And Toabah is used throughout the Torah and prophets to speak of abhorrent religious customs and ceremonies. This is idolatrous mythologies, repulsive and loathsome rituals, abominable festivals. It's religious rites, political practices as well, but to a lesser extent. So it makes no difference if the Toabah, disgusting religion, is of Egyptian origin, Babylonian, Assyrian, Greek, or Roman.
I could give an example of all.
Correct.
But, the reality is that Israel does love religion.
Yeah. The names of the sun, the moon, and the star gods changed, but little else. Roman Catholicism, Rabbinic Judaism, Islam were all based upon variations of the same formula. The seed is the most disgusting. Mm-hmm. It would be the dead God on a stick.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Which is just
even I just want to
brain dead. I mean, just so repulsive that you would have a religion that claims to worship God under the symbol of a dead God tortured on a stick. Mm-hmm. What in the world were you thinking? And then the second would be to take Dode, who was the Lion of Judah, and display him
As a Greek god.
as a six-pointed star.
Oh, well, yeah, there is that.
Mhm.
Because the six-pointed star was the star of Bar Kokhba, the son of the
Your
star.
king, your leader, your everything.
Dode, yeah, is all those things for Israel. And they did this to him.
Mm-hmm.
The ways of religion, of politics, of economic oppression, militarism, conspiracy are just not acceptable to God. They should not be taught, tolerated, imitated, performed, ordained, or instituted. This divine edict is so essential, it serves as the basis for the second statement that Yahweh etched on the first of the two tablets of stone. He just said, don't be religious. Don't even associate with any aspect of anything that could be construed religious. He begged his people not to do that, and yet they have. And they do the worst thing possible. Not only did they claim that their religion serves God, they lie about God in their religion.
Entirely.
That's just, nothing upsets God more. So it all comes down to this. Who do you trust? Yourself, no one, other men and women, false gods, or Yahweh? What is your preference? The rantings of progressive wokeism and socialist secular humanism, communism or fascism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Mormonism, or Judaism, Roman Catholicism, Orthodox and Protestant Christianity, or even worse, Islam.
That's a whole lot of isms.
They are counterproductive and offer nothing more than false hope, no matter how many the isms. If Yahweh is right, then they are all wrong. As a matter of fact, since God said that you have to be set apart to be in an association with him, the very fact that these things are popular means they have no association with God.
None whatsoever.
Yahweh wanted Yehudim to remain untainted by the corruption which surrounded them. They were Yahweh's control group, separated from the guiles of debilitating notions. In this way, they serve as witnesses, as examples of what life should be like, united, Loi, with or Azab, separated from God. Unfortunately,
We have a lot of experience in the latter.
Yeah, a pretty ugly picture.
Very.
For a very long time. A huge timeout for bad behavior. A 3,470 year timeout for bad behavior. It needs to change. So continue of human behavior, Yahweh added. There should not be found among you one causing his son or daughter to pass over or perish in a fire. Someone predicting the future based upon spiritualism, one who tempts or charms others, an individual who entices and seduces the people.
Let's see if it comes back. It's back.
Well, we had a
Glitch.
frigid moment with our internet. Last part of what I've just shared out of Dabadim 18 was that you ought not be in any association with association with demonic spirits.
Donald Trump. Sorry.
Yes. He would be the most adroit example of that today. Or one.
It just slipped out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.